Well, good morning, folks. Welcome back to the farm, and Happy New Year. It's a beautiful day today. Sun just came up. You see the skies are just gorgeous. It's about -10, and everything's frosty. Very, very frosty this morning, which means it's a perfect day to get out a pitchfork. So we did have some really cold temperatures just before Christmas. It was down around -40. Yeah, we were feeling that one. Like I said, now it's warmed up to -10. I think today it's forecasted to get up to about -4. So the earth is about to just sweat, right? So that's going to have a profound impact on the environmental conditions within our chicken house. Now, I don't really want to come back a week from now and find out what that means. So I'm just proactively going to get a pitchfork and control that environment myself. So as you're aware, if you watch for any length of time, we use the deep litter method that helps us build compost for our garden for next year, helps keep things hygienic in the coop, and it also helps generate heat in one of the harshest climates in the world so that we don't have to have any supplemental heat sources. So after having a deep cool, rise in humidity, and then a rise in temperature, is the perfect time to get into your chicken house and flip all your deep litter and start stacking it up. So in about a week from now, you're not going to see it today, but a week from now, we'll come back and we'll check the temperature in that chicken house, and you'll see we could be cooking pork chops in there. Not in the chicken house necessarily, but just inside the compost pile, it will be that warm. So just in the barn here now, I need, because I was just in here cleaning everything out a couple days ago, I need the big steel tine fork and a grain shovel. Now, plastic manure forks, they work okay, but like I said, it was -40, so I fully expect there's going to be some big frozen hunks in amongst the bedding, and big frozen hunks and plastic tines on forks. Generally, well, if you've ever eaten Christmas dinner with a plastic fork, you know, you've gone over to a relative's house and they've got the paper plates and the plastic forks, and you get tied into something, and all of a sudden, what does your fork do? Shatters, right? So, steel tine fork all day long. So first thing I got to do, I don't really have to do this, but it helps to do it, is empty the chicken house. And I don't mean of material, I mean of birds. So a grain scoop I find works best. Just can't really hurt anybody with it. You just kind of guide them out of the way and push them out the door. Keep the hatch on the other side closed. Force them outside. Otherwise, it just kind of gets loud and chaotic in here. They're flapping their wings and they're kicking up dust, and it's just not a good environment. So kick everybody out. We come in, redecorate, and then we let them back in. All right, well, I couldn't get everybody. I still got 5 up there and 2 down here. So we'll see how this goes. But I'm going to move the feeders, the water dish, everything, move them completely out of the way. Now, I didn't add a ton of carbonaceous material to this floor over the course of the summer and fall because it was extremely dry in terms of weather. And so later on, when I did run out of wood chips eventually, I added a straw bale here recently to soak up a lot of that moisture as the weather did a big fluctuation. Now, yesterday I picked up 4 big bags of wood shavings. So today what we're going to do is we're going to scoop from the very bottom, and then we're going to stack, and we're going to stack in layers so that straw isn't just matted in one big tight pile. It's distributed evenly throughout. So the temperature in here right now, you can see, is just over 1 degree Celsius. So about 11 degrees warmer than it is outside. So we're going to get all this stacked up here, and we're going to put it in that back corner. You can see I put that tin in that back corner, and the reason why the tin is in there is because if this material is moist at all and is generating heat against an OSB wall, well, you can imagine what it will do to OSB. So put that tin sheeting up just to kind of protect the wall. The next thing I want to do there, holy man, the sun is bright in here. The next thing I want to do now that I got my pile stacked up is clean out all of the nesting boxes. And I'm going to add that material to the floor and to the pile. Now, some folks that are a little further south than us have asked in the past, well, why do I need a big pile in the corner? Why is it not just enough to keep stacking material on the floor? And that's purely a geographic thing. So if you're, down in the mid to southern United States, yeah, of course, you get 18 inches of material. That's enough to generate composting heat, because you don't get those deep colds like we do up here in northern Alberta. So we want to have at least a cubic meter, same as you would in the summertime, really, to get a pile really going and really hot. And we try and maintain the height of that pile over the course of the winter. So every couple of weeks I'm going to come in here, maybe even every week. It really just depends how active the chickens are at stirring and tilling that up. But I'm going to keep piling material up there. And then for the rest of the winter, every couple of weeks, I'm going to be adding about 4 cubic yards of pine shavings to the floor. And then just, I have a system actually. First, I add them to the nesting boxes. Then when that kind of gets a bit soiled, I throw that on the floor. And then as the floor gets a little bit soiled, then I shovel that up into the pile. So they're just constantly in rotation throughout the coop. And it works quite well. What I'm expecting to see is in 3-4 days, I'll come back in, I'll check the temperature in the center of the pile. I should be right around the 135, 140 degrees in the center of the pile. Fahrenheit, that is, not Celsius. I'm not boiling water here. But and then by the end of the week, I should be pretty close to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Which 160, as you know, is, if I put a pork shoulder in a Ziploc bag and wrapped it in tin foil and threw it in the center of that pile, give it 4 or 5 hours, I could actually cook that pork shoulder in the compost pile. Pretty amazing. Not that I'm gonna, because that would be 7 kinds of nasty, but you could. So now that I emptied all my nesting boxes out, you can see I've added some of this mystery white powder here. This is diatomaceous earth. Now, diatomaceous earth in the chicken world, it can be a bit of a polarizing subject in some cases. From my experience, I found it works really well in the nesting boxes to help reduce mites and things like that. Now, some folks have said, well, if you're using deep litter, you shouldn't add diatomaceous earth because it can kill off all the microbes and stuff that are in your compost pile. My experience has been, again, that is pure and utter nonsense. Here in the nesting boxes, this is a very dry environment. And so diatomaceous earth, which is the crushed fossilized remains of diatoms, right, from ancient oceans, only works when it's dry. As soon as it gets wet, it's done. It's dead. I've seen some crazy chicken people do some crazy chicken stuff, like adding it to water. I've even seen them spread it in outdoor runs. And I mean, so the minute it gets humid or moist, it's done. It's dead in the water. There's no more benefit to it at all, in fact. So having in the nesting boxes is fine. By the time I scoop out these nesting boxes and gets added to the material on the floor already is, I don't want to say moist or damp, but it's approaching that. And by the time it gets into the pile, it absolutely is moist and damp. And so it does nothing to affect the health of the pile. Again, that's in my experience. If other people have had other experiences, I'd be interested to learn what that experience has been. A lot of this stuff in the chicken world is purely anecdotal. It's just trial and error. And this works for us, may not work for you. But anyways, I'm going to get my bag of shavings. I'm going to refill all the nesting boxes so they'll have a nice cozy place to lay their eggs tomorrow. Now these bags of shavings I got, they're 4 cubic feet. And I want to say I paid like $11 a bag for 4 cubic feet, $11 a bag. The price has just gone up through the roof here in the last year. So I'm actively seeking an alternative solution. Now, I know some folks have said like sawdust is not good in the chicken coop, and I agree that dust in the coop is not good. But there are some local mills that make, whoever's clucking up there, there's some local mills that cut rough cut lumber. And so the material that comes off of those blades is oftentimes a little bit denser, a little bit coarser than straight sawdust. So I'm going to try and find one of those guys and get maybe like a mini bulk bag full. That would be close to a whole winter's supply for us. I've seen it, you know, in some areas where guys are getting it for like $40-50 for a mini bulk bag, as opposed to, you know, that's probably, well, if these are $11, 4 cubic feet, I don't know what the math on that works out to be, but to me it seems cheaper to go with the mini bulk bag. I'll have to do the math on that one day and do a comparison video. All right, so I got my nesting boxes all full of nice clean shavings. I got about a half a bag left, so I'm going to save that for next time. Now I could just dump it on the floor, right, and just mix it all in. But not only would that be wasteful, because I mean, what's the point? Just throwing money on the floor. But it would actually be detrimental to the process here. So kiln dried shavings, when added directly to the compost pile, are going to rob nitrogen and they're going to rob moisture. So kind of undoing the process I'm trying to actually encourage. So we needed to actually go from there, get activated, come to the floor, get activated some more with a little bit of more microbial activity, and pick up a little bit of humidity, and then go into the pile and work some magic. So we're going to set this one aside. I won't need to come back and revisit that for a couple of weeks. The only time I would ever probably add this stuff directly to the pile itself is really if I was having a humidity runaway. So if there was a massive temperature fluctuation, up, down, with you know, let's say mid 80s relative humidity, then chances are you could start getting ammonia build up in the coop and things like that. And then I would want to come in and add some material and slow that process. I put the brakes on, right? But generally, if things are working well and Mother Nature's cooperating, which, well, I don't know, it doesn't always happen, but you know, in theory, if everything's doing what it's supposed to be doing, you should never have to add that to the pile. Just add it to your boxes, cycle everything out of your boxes to the floor, cycle the floor to the pile. Triple happy teddy bears. The ladies are all queuing up outside the door. They're impatient. They look like a bunch of Brits outside of Tesco's at 8 o'clock in the morning. Let's get this open for them. Come on in. Come in for tea. Of course, there's always got to be one facing backwards. There, figure it out. There you go. Come on back in. Welcome home. Extreme home makeover. Same shithole, different sheets. So I finished up my shenanigans with the chickens, and I'm just in the barn here now, working on a little side project. Much to my chagrin, the barn got finished later in the season than I wanted it to. And so while I had time, vacation time booked off work, I wasn't able to complete all the wiring work that I wanted to get done. So we found ourselves earlier in the year doing some temporary stuff, and I'm still doing temporary stuff just to make do. So instead of having what we currently have, which is an extension cord up to a light with a photocell, the photocell inside a building, as you know, it doesn't work very effectively. I'm actually going to wire in a light switch. So I got an extension cord over there that runs up to this 5,000 lumen LED light, pretty sweet light that I got from the Home Depot there. But it's running day and night. Now I could put a photocell outside, and then it would only run during the nighttime. But even that is like, well, what do we really even need the light on here at all for during the night? So we're just wasting energy for the sake of wasting energy. So what I want to do is get the light switch on, and then whatever. If a guy's got to come in at 5 a.m., well, that makes perfect sense. Let's turn the light switch on. But if a guy's got to come in at 2 in the afternoon, well, why do you need the lights on? So just gonna get this figured out, and then next spring, hopefully, we'll have some time available. We can trench power in from the pole, and then we can actually put a proper breaker box over here and run a couple of bigger lights run some power outlets for you know, some heated water buckets and things like that. So, but anyways, that's what I'm working on here this afternoon. I'm not going to bore you with that because it's, you know, it's pretty fine little work here, fidgety little work. So I'll let you go for now while I do this. I'm hoping you're having a wonderful, happy New Year's Day, and stop by. We'll see you for tea maybe tomorrow.